evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Shivani Malik, your host for the evening. Our agenda for next 60 minutes is to talk about two main aspects of any business, which is brand marketing and consumer experiences. Both these aspects go hand in hand as far as any business is concerned. So I have amongst me very senior panelists who will tell us, enlighten us about these two topics. Sunil ji is coming, he's running. So we have Bharat, who is the co-founder of Nirmalaya. So I was having a chat with Bharat outside and I've told him that, there is an adversity which is converted into an opportunity. So what Bharat did, he converted waste flowers into an opportunity, which is fragrances. So we have Kedar, who is the head of brand category and marketing Amazon India. He is the main man behind Amazon exclusive programmer in smartphones, the Great Indian Festival, Amazon Fashion Marketing, Amazon Prime, Amazon Pay, Amazon Fresh.
Everything with Amazon.
Everything related to Amazon. So we have Divij. He is the founder of Powergummies. So I told him that I personally thank Divij because I have an 11-year-old daughter. She used to have gummies from a candy store, but I have replaced that gummies with Powergummies. That's thanks to Divij. And we have Sunil sir, who is the founder of Fab Cafe, which is the only cafe in the world which works on a chefless model. He is the founder of Chef United, which is doing catering for all corporates and celebrities. So one thing I absolutely love about Sunil is, so whenever I go out for lunch with Sunil, he will quickly excuse himself from the table, rush to the kitchen, cook something nice for you, get it on the table. So for me, he's a celebrity chef. Thank you so much for joining. So now, let's begin with Kedar. My first question is to you. As a back-facing brand, which is, Amazon is a back-facing brand, basically. So how do you enhance customer experience vis-a-vis a consumer-facing brand?
All right, thank you, Shivani. Thanks for the wonderful introduction. Small clarification, I'm not the only man behind it. There are lots and more.
You are one of them.
So thanks for that. And then a very interesting question. Let me just decode that question a little. I think the way to see this is to say that, okay, hey, is there a difference between a B2C brand or a B2B brand, and then how do you really build trust, especially with the most demanding customers, right? As you reflect on that, I think there are a few fundamentals that go in building trust, which I believe are essential for any business. And if I were to break it down, just simplify it, I would say 7 such strategies come to my mind. The first and foremost, and this is not in the order of priority or importance, it's just for the sake of convenience, I'll call it in that order. So first and foremost is, I think, being extremely honest and then having integrity. I think that really helps build trust with your demanding customer. I'll give you a small anecdote. A while ago, we had gone to a small UDP in Bangalore. And then when we got back, after a month, I got a call from that. And he said that, hey, you know what, actually I charged you 100 rupees more. And please tell me, how can I refund this money back to you? Is it the same card, or should I pay you back in a different way? So that's the way brands are built, when you're extremely honest and you have high integrity. I think the second thing is core to everything. We all know this, which is the quality of the product. And quality of the product is the moment of truth. You can do any kind of marketing, and 8 out of 10 things about a great brand are really not about marketing, they're about the product and the service that you build. So the quality of the product is of extreme importance. The third strategy I think is important, whether it's a small or a big business, is consistency in your messaging. We don't usually think as all touch points is one. And this becomes even more challenging as the organization grows. There are many people, and everyone is actually a way in which they're representing the brand. One has to think through on how do you really weave this in together and everyone has the same message to be delivered, whether it is a delivery boy, whether it is a customer center, a customer call, or whether it's your own ad or even a digital ad or any touch point. So I think consistent messaging is extremely important. The other aspect is basically transparency. And here's another anecdote that I want to call out, right? So a personal anecdote, we were looking for a holiday and we were looking for some different kinds of holidays that we could do. 7 such companies reached out. Of the 7, there was one company which was transparent about what they are not going to deliver. And the rest kept talking about how everything that they're delivering is great. So talking about what you're not going to do and being transparent about it, whether it is your pricing, whether it is your delivery, whether it is your return policy, especially in the context of retail, is extremely important. So being transparent around it. I think the other strategy that we can all think of is, don't think of your product or a brand as just pricing equal to what we deliver to consumers. Think of it as pricing plus value. So value is essentially pricing plus experience, right? So try and see in which ways you could add that small little value to your consumers. It could be basic tips in what you could do. If it's a new category, you can think of small tips in which you can use this category. Or if it's an old one, help them be an expert and start talking about it. And it really helps consumers. We may not see this to be big, but then as a consumer goes through the entire buying cycle, this comes out to be extremely useful to them. So, and the last two that I would add, and I was listening to the earlier panel and the few ones before that, this one piece has been consistent across, is listening to your consumers' feedback. I would add a little bit to that. It's not just about listening to your consumers, it's ensuring that you put a process and you put a mechanism that enforces everyone in your organization, be it small or big, that they adhere to that. And the most demanding consumers are really the ones that will give you the best lessons. So these were the 6, and if I have to leave you with a last one, I can think of personalization in terms of messaging, product or service. I have a very interesting story on this one. I won't take much time. This is about a pan store in Aurangabad, and this pan store is by the name called Tara Pan Center, and this is almost now become like a heritage in Aurangabad. Anyone who wants to go there looks at Ajanta Ellora and definitely should have a pan. So that's how the brand has grown. So I was talking to the owner, who started off with a small pan shop and is now about 75 years old. I said, what is it? What is your secret mantra, and what have you done? And we refer to him as Ustad. I said, Ustad ji, आपने क्या किया है कि इतने सालों से आपका business चल रहा है? So then he said, hey, there's very simple thing. मेरे शॉप पे जब लोग आते हैं तो वो बोलते हैं मेरा वाला पान देना, मेरे अंकल का पान देना, भैया का पान देना. So he said that is how much it is personalized. And he said ingredients are same. किसी में थोड़ा कत्था ज़्यादा लगता है, किसी में थोड़ा सा मसाला ज़्यादा लगता है, but at the end of the day, I've personalized it, and then whenever anyone comes, I just ask कि भैया कैसे है. And he said, by the way, I don't even know who his bhaiya is, but then I make sure that, okay, hey, I talk to him. So the moment you personalize it, and personalization does not mean it comes at a huge cost. You could even write the name on the cup, and you know what I'm talking about. So I think those are small little things that one can do. So I think that's how I think about it when I think about building trust with your most demanding consumer.
Divij, my next question is to you.
Yes.
How do you focus on brand marketing for Powergummies, as marketing is target based?
We cater to a large set of audience, and I think that's the problem with all of them. And we have the king sitting here who's dealing with Amazon, who's like pan-India. We are still a small segment in front of them. But so the biggest question that we have, and all the marketing people always have when we have our discussions, is, see, it's a very big universe. You can't target everybody. You need a lot of money. So how we cater to it is that we do market segmentation, wherein the bullseye term referred to is the low-hanging fruit. I mean, so we have to do segmentation in marketing as to understand that who is our low-hanging fruit, and whom we can reach out at the first phase, where I have to spend less and gain more. where is my absolute target audience, that, you know, this is my consumer profiling, where as per this consumer persona, if I'm able to reach to this particular consumer, he is 90% sure likely to buy my product. So that is, I think, the phase one where we define that this is the low hanging fruit that we have to go after. Once that is defined is when we look out for making a broader segment, where we understand that now if you have to jump out of the comfort space and go to get the other person who is not likely to buy it 90%, but if we tweak the marketing this way, or if we are able to reach that person in this particular way, there is a 80% chance that we'll be able to get them. So slowly with that segmentation is where we plan our marketing. And then that also that is also equally proportionate to budgeting. Like for now, I think be it me or be it any organization in the world, everybody is just cutting all their budgets and expenses, because everybody's you know, eyeing towards more of EBITDA. So when that is happening, you know, we have cut short a few of the segments where we have said that we'll you know, deal with the segments that are easy to get, where we can get EBITDAs, and we'll not, you know, go for the market share, rather we'll go for more consolidation. But we are in the growth, but when we are in the growth phase is when we, you know, target and create more and more segments, and we try to get to more and more segments and get out of the comfort space and get them. So market segmentation is the biggest thing that you know, we plan the marketing for. And the second one is if there is an ongoing trend, because now mostly when the marketing has become digital, it is very important to be very careful on the kind of trends that are going on. So you know, if you can get hold of some trends, and that is where the product fits in. So you have to be very on toes. And on spot, you have to decide that, you know, even though this wasn't in the marketing plan, this has to immediately come up, because this is where, you know, suddenly a new low-hanging fruit is activated and we can go and grab it. So, I mean, that's our strategy.
Bharat, my next question is to you. How does one switch gears from a cause-driven entity to a market opportunity focusing on brand marketing?
So when we talk about cost-driven entity, I personally believe in having a sustainable, financially sustainable organization, because so that is where I think most of the non-profit organizations fail. They focus more on the cause and less on actually sustainability. So if we focus on the business and cause equally, then we'll be able to, I think, sustain it for a longer period. So my focus is simple. My focus is on the business, and what if we can do, we can take care of the cause with it. So as of today, also, like, we have 65 plus women working in our organization full time, and we are recycling over 40 tons of floral waste every month. So the funda is simple. We will create a brand. We will be able to, when we will be able to sell more, we will be able to recycle more, because our products are particularly based on the recycled flowers or the waste flowers. So that's where we move from an entity-driven organization to a brand marketing. And for brand marketing also, there has to be like a mix of things, where we have zero CAC modules also to acquire the customers, and where we also spend on the I think expensive ones when we acquire the customers. So that's where we make a balance, and a balance when making a brand, and basically moving from a cost-driven organization to a brand-driven organization.
Fab Cafe is under the wings of a larger brand, Fab India. What is your strategy towards brand marketing and consumer satisfaction in this case? Sir, before you say something, I have a reason why I'm asking this question. Since the past 5 days, I've been researching about Fab India and Fab Cafe. So I've spoken to a lot of women, lot of men about Fab Cafe. Predominantly, what's happened is that people say that Fab Cafe is expensive. So when I asked them that, did you visit Fab Cafe? They said, no, we've not visited, but Fab India is expensive. So just because of the fact that Fab India is expensive, they have this notion in their brain that Fab Cafe is also expensive. So in that scenario, Fab Cafe to build up and to do brand marketing It's very difficult because Fab Cafe is under the umbrella of a bigger brand, basically. So in this scenario, sir, what is your strategy towards brand marketing and consumer
What
satisfaction?
is very interesting here is to kind of see and understand that Fab Cafe as a brand certainly is under the umbrella of Fab India, which where the core business is apparel. So, and what is interesting to see here is that while the entity is apparel, the first hurdle that you have to cross is uh, the, the breaking the perception of a consumer is that whether they'd be able to do a good job when it comes to not their domain or not their comfort zone is where there lies a challenge. But um, being under, having being under the wings of a big brand, it gives you certain advantages also for sure. And there are certain challenges as well. One of the challenges which you correctly mentioned was about, the pricing, for example. And I must tell you that from a price perspective, it is very reasonably priced as you would compare it with any of the, you know, um, any outlets of that level, of that caliber. In fact, what we are able to do, and part of it is connected with the consumer satisfaction, is that as a food, what I did was that I had to copy the essence of Fab India into the menu in terms of keeping the same DNA of the food, where we are very focused on giving food which is good for you in terms of the ingredients that we are using. So our approach is alt ingredients. We don't use white sugar. We don't use white rice. We don't use we 95%, 98% of our menu we don't use refined flour as well, barring one or two dishes. So, from brand marketing perspective, as I said, there are certain advantages. Is that there is a assured footfall. What we have to do is convert that footfall into in our own footfall. That is one advantage. Uh, but the other challenge that we face from a brand marketing perspective, so is that getting. So if I'm sure you all will agree with the fact that there is a certain kind of uh, consumers or certain kind of customers which is attached to a brand Fab India. And when you kind of see that, and you then compare it with what you are doing, which is from a food perspective, where you want the millennials to come and where you want it is the food which is food of, of next gen as well, in terms of you are addressing the concerns of somebody being, wanting to have gluten free or vegan food or paleo diet or low carb diet as well. So we have to walk a tightrope actually when it comes to brand marketing in that sense. And um, the good thing of the way we go about and what we are also now focusing on at Fab Cafes uh, is is educating people primarily that it is not about, when you say healthy, it is not about insipid, non-tasty food, but when you say healthy is also about actually about conscious eating. You could eat uh, 1 kg of salad, will not be good for you. I mean, even if you are having a salad, it has to be in right proportion. So therefore, I mean, in our case, in, and particularly in Indian food, we are addressing Indian menu in the cafes primarily. If you see, is that the Indian food has always been very, very healthy food compared to the food that is available in West or what we experience outside India, primarily America, I would say, not Europe, for example, but the ultra processed food that I'm talking about, which is also in restaurants also. I mean, there has been a fair amount of effect of that lifestyle and those ingredients. Um, coming to the point of your consumer satisfaction and you know focus on consumer is that we believe that when people come in our restaurants, they are, you know, they are in our control. When we say in our control, we firmly believe that a consumer satisfaction starts from the after you've entered. As a chef, I would start it not from the whole experience, but from the tongue. Is first thing first, you experience it with your tongue, and then you experience it with your heart, and ultimately it is the tummy which we touch at the end of the day. Um, the it's an art which we create, and as a chef, you know, we are very proud of it. Although, you know, it gets flushed in the morning next day. But having said that, it is a demand which is generated in morning, in afternoon, and in the evening. And as I was mentioning a little earlier, that for us, for a restaurant, our focus area, our captive client is only 5 to 7 kilometers away from where we are. And that is the strategy from a brand marketing perspective, from a consumer satisfaction perspective. We have to keep that in mind, because today nobody is traveling more than 5-7 kilometers for a cup of coffee or for an experience. I mean, you know, unless it's a experience of the highest order. As far as food is concerned, I don't think people are traveling more than 5 kilometers away today. So yeah, that's my bit in terms of, you know, when it comes to brand marketing and consumer satisfaction.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for that. Now, I have a question for each one of you. Considering the recent past that has been a roller coaster ride, be it COVID times or layoffs for all businesses, I would like you to know from all of you, what would you have done differently now, strategically, in brand marketing and consumer satisfaction? So let's start with.
Fortunately, we started after COVID, and looking at the current scenarios also, my aim and what I look up to always is to have a, for example, if we talk about the current scenario of layoffs, I always focus on having a lean team. Like, for example, currently we employ 65 plus women at our workplace, and going forward we scale up to a level where we need, for example, 300 women working for us. I'll probably shift to automation rather than employing more women, because then again, relating to my last question, because we believe more into the business, we believe in building business and a long-term business, making it profitable and running financially sustainable, basically. So, looking at the current scenarios, I will probably switch to automation rather than employing more people, because what if tomorrow the organization is not able to sustain just because of the high manpower cost? So, and looking at COVID also, so because we are a D2C startup, we ultimately have to deliver the products. So I think that is an exceptional case, and that exceptionally happened I think in generations that we have known. So that's my particular take on.
In our case, it was very, very clear that home delivery has to be a very essential play as far as restauranting is concerned because of the COVID. The second bit was that, yes, of course, you have to cut down costs, otherwise there is no means of survival. And third thing, which restaurants realized in our case, we also thought about, was the opportunity of getting into an FMCG in terms of the the product line, because a customer is coming to you and he's your captive client for another 40 minutes. You have his attention, and you know, of course, where you can educate him in whatever you're doing, including things like, you know, giving them instead of the menu, giving them the ingredients with which they can make their own products so even if it was a cashew cheese, for example, or a chutney that they could carry home as a portion. So yeah, post COVID there has been a lot of learnings, and also we are today especially for restauranting is what I'll speak. It's no more just a restauranting, just that opportunity that you have to look at. You have to see for survival, to keep afloat, you have to look at various ways and means of generating more revenue with the infrastructure and with the team that you have. That's become very, very important in restauranting.
That's quite interesting to see like a lot of common threads as you see an answer to this. Uh, I'll add my bit here. Lot of macro factors have happened, right? And macro factors are as usual. But the big one has been COVID. And then it's interesting how soon we kind of forget and we kind of move on and we don't carry some of these. I think there are a few things that personally I have learned, and when you think of brand, I've applied that. So a simple mental model, brand is what people talk about you when you're not in the room. So, and then that tells you saying that, okay, how do you need to behave and what you do. So what COVID has really, from a philosophical point and from what you ingrain into your brand, I think one is be more empathetic. You need to really understand your consumer. So, you don't know the other person's problem. Even a consumer who's reaching out and what they're going through. So you need to be more appreciative about what they're going through. Reflect that into your communication. Reflect that into your service. Reflect that into every touch point that you have. I think that's one big thing that probably has we've picked up. The other thing is that you can't control everything. So you need to know what you can control and focus on that. Should not really worry about what you can't control. Don't put your energies behind that. The intelligence is knowing the difference between what is controllable and what is not. I think that's the second philosophical point as you think about it, which is impacted. I think from a core brand building and a more communication point of view, from a media touch points, a lot has changed in the way COVID impacted. There are obviously trends in which TV viewership has been impacted. There are trends in which a lot of small digital players have come up. There are a lot of micro marketing possibilities that have emerged. And it's important for all the marketeers to really keep a track of it, to know what out of home earlier was to probably what it is now. So you need to now revisit on your media mix to be able to then cater to that. And I think the last thing is also the way your brand is positioned. When I study brands across, I'm realizing the bit around how brands are now being very, very honest in what they are. And if you look at all the new age ads, they're almost calling out what they are, as opposed to just putting up a facade and trying to sell that, okay, hey, you apply this and suddenly world changes and you get everything in life. So I think that's the reality that has hit us, and yeah, so a lot of good stuff that has come out of it.
Nothing that I would like to change. It's been a good journey. But of course, three things that I would have been a little more cautious on and would love to have been an early adapter of, which we realize a little late, is one, be a little more EBITDA cautious. Since we were a new category, we were focusing more on the growth part. It was a new concept. Our EBITDA focus came into play very late when the situations were very down the hill. Of course, we handled, but there's something that I would go back in time and be a little more wary of. Second thing would be to take quick commerce more seriously. I think the way it quickly just got absorbed with the consumers, we understood the trend a little more late. Third thing is to be a little more proactive in the offline space, because when with COVID just suddenly offline disappeared, after COVID suddenly offline just shot up. So that reverse effect when it happened was something that we should have been a little more early adapters of. So these three things.
Thank you so much. Now we open the house. Does anybody have any questions?
Except when will we have tea? Because that's the only question I can see from everybody's face.
Anyway, thank you so much. Thank you so much.